I'm Amy Goodman. This is Democracy Now! Special Thirsty for Democracy, the poisoning of an American city. Well, as Flint residents are forced to drink, cook with, and even bathe in bottled water, while still paying some of the highest water bills in the country for their poisoned water, we turn to a little-known story about the bottled water industry in Michigan. In 2001 and 2002, the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality issued permits to Nestle, now the largest water bottling company in the world, to pump up to 400 gallons of water per minute from aquifers that feed Lake Michigan. This sparked a decade-long legal battle between Nestle and the residents of Mecosta County, where Nestle's water wells are located. One of the most surprising things about this story is that in Mecosta County, Nestle is not really required to pay anything to extract the water besides a small permitting fee to the state and the cost of a lease to a private landowner. In fact, the company received $13 million in tax breaks from the state of Michigan to locate the plant there. The spokesperson for Nestle in Michigan is Deborah Muchmore. She's the wife of Dennis Muchmore. That's Michigan Governor Rick Snyder's chief of staff, who he just retired and registered to be a lobbyist. Well, we reached out to Nestle for comment on the story. We didn't speak with Deborah Muchmore, but we did speak with Jane Lazen of Nestle Waters, who said, quote, "We're deeply invested in the Muskegon River watershed and its sustainability. Our water use is always permitted and compliant with the permitting authorities," unquote. But residents of Mecosta County have another story to tell. So let's take a look at Nestle and the battle over the Great Lakes, which are 20% of the world's fresh water. This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman. We're in Flint, Michigan, where yesterday, on Saturday, we spent the day following residents who were checking on their neighbors. Do they have water? Is their filter working? Do they have children in the house? Have they been tested for lead? Just being good neighbors, also making sure that they had bottled water. One of the astounding things we learned is that residents are still paying for their lead-poisoned water. When we first pulled into Flint, Michigan the other night, we came behind, well, right here, the municipal building in Flint. There, the National Guard was giving out water. Today, assigned Flint Water Distribution Center. They gave us a case of Ice Mountain 100% natural spring water. It's made by Nestle. Now, one of the things that a number of people were talking about is that Nestle, which has a plant a couple hours north of here, a bottling plant, is sucking water out of Lake Michigan for free. So today we're going to head north to Mecosta County to the Nestle bottling plant to speak with a group of women who live in the area, who've been engaging in a legal battle against Nestle for years. Let's go. I'm Amy Goodman. This is Democracy Now! We're here in Stanwood, Michigan. It's about 3 hours north of Detroit, and it's here that Nestle has its Ice Mountain bottled water plant. We're joined right now by Peggy Case. She is the current president of Michigan Citizens for Water Conservation. Can you talk about this plant, Peggy?
Well, this is where the bottled water is being trucked out from Nestle. It's taking the water from our aquifers and it's shipping it all over the world. So
we're talking about 200 gallons per minute is being sucked out of the aquifer that feeds Lake Michigan?
Yes, the water from this plant is coming from several wells, one in Mecosta and two in Everett, and they are now pumping 218 gallons per minute. They wanted to do 400.
But you stopped them from a decade-long lawsuit.
That's true.
How much do they pay for the 200 gallons of water per minute that they're sucking out of the aquifer that feeds Lake Michigan?
As far as I know, they're paying nothing.
Let's go talk to Michigan Citizens for Water Conservation. Hello. How are you? I'm good. I'm Peggy Case. Peggy, hi. Very nice to see you. Hi.
I'm Terry Swear.
Oh, hi, Terry.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Glenna.
Oh, hi, Glenna. How are you?
My name is Terry Swear, and I live in Mecosta County, which is probably about 3 hours from Flint, 2.5, 3 hours from Flint, Michigan. I was the original president of Michigan Citizens for Water Conservation that took Nestle to court.
I'm Peggy Case. I live near Traverse City, Michigan. I am about 2 hours away from Mecosta County, north of here. I became president of Michigan Citizens for Water Conservation when Terry retired.
Hi, I'm Glenna Manicky, and I'm on the board of Michigan Citizens for Water Conservation, currently the treasurer.
In 2000, when Nestle came into the area, to Mecosta County, explain what they were coming in to do.
In 2000, we found that Nestle had come to Mecosta County and was meeting with elected officials, and what Nestle was asking for was a place that they would be able to take water, a bottling plant, and selling the water, which they basically, what Nestle did was basically sold the water to us, and it was already our water.
Peggy Case, can you explain what was the water, the body of water they were drawing from?
So the water that Nestle is bottling here and elsewhere in our state is coming from the Great Lakes Basin. It is feeding here into Dead Stream and Cold Creek, then into the Little Muskegon River, that aquifer, and then eventually, ultimately, into Lake Michigan. So it's Great Lakes Basin water. It's part of the commons. It belongs to all of us. And part of the reason the people in Mecosta were pretty upset about it is that the extraction of that water was being taken out of the watershed. It was being, the streams were being pumped down to the point where the Dead Stream looked like a mud hole at one point, and bottled and shipped all over the world.
How is it possible that Nestle, which is making an enormous profit on this water, doesn't actually have to pay for the water it's drawing?
They're drawing the water from a well on private land, for one thing. It would be no different if they came to my house, where I have a well, and asked to use my well to put water in a truck and cart it away. And if I said yes, they have the right to do that.
But this massive public resource, water, we're not talking about feeding a family of 4 or 5. We're talking about 400 gallons per minute around the day, around the month, around the year.
Right. It's criminal.
Why wouldn't there be laws that say when you take this public resource, you have to pay for it, since people are paying for that water, including you if you buy, for example, Ice Mountain?
Well, I don't know why it's legal to do that. They get a permit from the state that allows them to do that. I personally don't believe that we should be doing that with our water. We should not be privatizing the water. That it amounts to privatizing the water.
Terry, take us through this decade-long lawsuit against Nestle.
We began in the circuit court. We had seen what Nestle was proposing to do and decided that we needed to take Nestle to court. That was the only way that Nestle would ever realize that, yes, we did want our water, we wanted to protect our water, and the water was ours, not theirs. This lasted for, like I said before, this lasted for 8 years. And in that time, with lawyer fees and all the fees that come with going to court, we spent over $1 million.
Glenna Manicky, you're the treasurer of Michigan Citizens for Water Conservation. How did you raise this money? It cost like $1 million to take on Nestle?
We scrambled for every penny we could get. We did 50-50 raffles among us, or anybody else we could get into it. We did yard sales. We wrote grants. We had bake sales. help me out here. Pasties were part of the bake sale.
What are pasties?
Pasties are a meat vegetable concoction that's kind of localized to Michigan.
And you were able to raise how much through all of this?
We are out of debt now.
We raised $1 million with no corporate money, no government money. At one point, Nestle even offered us some kind of a grant, and Terry said, "Are you kidding? No way."
Terry Swear, can you talk about Nestle actually personally going after you?
My son and I both had some problems. There was a SLAPP suit against my son.
You're talking about a SLAPP suit, strategic lawsuit against public participation. That's SLAPP.
That is where, to put it very, very simply, it is where the company, Nestle, they wrote the letter to Michigan Citizens for Water Conservation's lawyer saying that my son, Chris, was not speaking nicely about Nestle, surprise, surprise, and that they were going to do a SLAPP suit.
Did they send private investigators to your home?
We had these private investigators show up. And then we also had the FBI coming to our homes.
Glenna Manneke, did you have any family members, or you yourself, were you approached by the FBI?
Well, this is hearsay from my family members, but there had been a small, explosion or bomb or what was it, set off at the wellhead. And they had decided that it was my uncle who had done it. And so the FBI came to his house to arrest him. And they found him in his wheelchair with neither one of his prostheses on. It was the highlight of his life.
So when we came into Flint a few nights ago, we went behind the municipal building, and the National Guard was distributing water to people who drove up, and they gave us a case of Ice Mountain water. And Ice Mountain is made by Nestle, actually right down the road from here in Mecosta County. So you have a situation where the people of Flint, their water supply is poisoned, and they're now being donated, or they have to buy bottled water. A lot of that is Nestle water. Nestle as a corporation overall, I think it posted $14 billion in profit in 2014. Can you talk about this connection?
I want to know why we don't have FEMA bringing in the tanker trucks that they, I'm sure, have available. Why aren't they taking the groundwater that Nestle is taking and providing it to the people in larger containers?
Well, it's interesting because we did see big FEMA pallets of water as well.
The National Guard is distributing small bottles of water. They are certainly capable of finding some trucks to bring in groundwater from endless aquifers here that Nestle is getting for free, and the people of Flint should get it for free too.
It's quite amazing. You have people having to pay for their poisoned water in Flint.
$140 a month, roughly.
Some of the highest rates in Michigan and in the country.
Yes.
And then you have but now, because under enormous pressure, the state government says they're not going to engage in cutoffs of water. But here you have Detroit, which actually has clean water. So the people in Flint, they will continue to get their poisoned water. But the people in Detroit who have clean water, they're having their water cut off.
Right. I call it criminal behavior. It's also, in my mind, it's environmental racism.
What do you mean by environmental racism?
These are cities that are predominantly African-American cities. These are the ones that have been taken over by emergency managers.
It's hard not to notice that the leadership of these organizations, whether in Detroit or dealing with the poisoned water in Flint to here, that you are women. What is it about you gals?
I have 2 sons, and I have 2 grandchildren, and that's who I work for. I mean, I do. I work for my children and my grandchildren. we're also very concerned about climate change. We're concerned about what kind of planet we're leaving for our children. I think women tend to maybe be a little closer to that feeling or that kind of passion. For me, it's a moral imperative. I have to leave something better than what I found, and we're having, as a species, a hard time doing that these days. So I have, I've been an activist all my life, pretty much.
Terry, as Peggy said, she was an activist all her life. You were shaking your head. You weren't?
I have never been involved in anything like what we're doing right now. And never thought I could do it, never thought I would have to do it. But I agree with Peggy. You can see the lake that I live on. And one day, I just stood there and I looked. I have 5 grandchildren, 2 sons, 2 daughter-in-laws. And it's like, I cannot let this happen. I'm a 3rd generation who lives here. And this means so much to me that I could not just walk away from it.
That was Terry Swear, Peggy Case, and Glenna Manicky of Michigan Citizens for Water Conservation at Terry's home in Mecosta County, Michigan.